absolutely necessary, as I can't find a solution to it online anywhere. And so I had to play around with OBS all freaking day just to figure out how to fix this issue. Now the problem is that on my desktop audio, it was completely unsynced with everything else. All right, my mic was synced. I had a mic 2 that was set up, that was synced. My video was synced, everything. Just my desktop audio was off sync. It was unsynced, and I couldn't figure out why. As I this is what I did to fix it online. I went into anywhere gearbox, and so I had to play around with OBS properties all freaking day was checked just to figure out use device timestamp issue. This little box. Now the problem is I unchecked that desktop audio. It was completely unsynced with everything else. All right, my mic was synced. I changed up. I had a mic 2 that was set up. That was synced. My video was synced. Everything just in hopes to my desktop audio have it was off sync. It was unsynced, and I couldn't figure out why. After that was what I did to fix it. I just went anywhere gearbox, and so I had to figure out if it actually was all freaking synced again just to figure out use device over here to iTunes. Now the problem is I recorded myself on my desktop audio. When I hit that play button, whenever I go somewhere else on the timeline here. I changed up. I had a mic 2. See, the music will change instantly. That's how you know it's going to be synced up. So let's check it out. Now watch. Boom. That should be synced. If it's not synced, by the time I go back and check this recording, I'm going to be hella angry. But I tried it a few times now, and it's working perfectly. All right? So this has nothing to do with reinstalling OBS. This has nothing to do with your actual device encoding settings, your hardware, nothing like that, because everything I tried didn't work. And the last thing I tried right here, going into this little gearbox, hitting properties, unchecking use device timestamps, that worked. And I thought it was so many different things. I was going into my settings, I was going into advanced, I was going into my video, changing up the sample rate, changing up all kinds of different things, turning down my process priority, everything, and I nothing worked. That was the only thing that worked for me. My 2 that was set up different things. I was going into my settings, I was going into advanced, I was going into my video, changing up the sample rate, changing up all kinds of different things, turning down my process priority, everything, and nothing worked. That was the only thing that worked for me. My 2 that was set up different things. I was going into my settings, I was going into advanced, I was going into my video, changing up the sample rate, changing up all kinds of different things, turning down my process priority, everything, and
I adopted rich people's habits, and this is how my life changed. We all dream of success, and who better to look up to than those who built their own empires from scratch? These people claim to have certain habits that help them to get to where they are today. Well, this piqued my interest, so I decided to try these habits out for myself for 6 months. I had big expectations, and I was certainly not let down. Here's how it went. You know the saying, the early bird gets the worm? It's true. Successful people are rarely night owls. They go to bed and wake up quite early. So this was the first habit I decided to take on. When I started this experiment, I was at a time in my life I loved staying up to watch my shows, play video games, and surf the web. I was one of those people with about 5 different alarm clocks, and each morning I would hit snooze several times on every single one. So you probably get what I'm saying when I tell you that this was the hardest habit to get into. But with the power of steel, I decided to wake up at the same time every day and come to work an hour early. I couldn't have done this lifestyle of the rich and famous experiment without this cool fitness tracker with an alarm clock. It kept track of my heart rate and knew if I was still asleep after the alarm went off. And in that case, it vibrated until I woke up. Of course, the switch wasn't easy to make. It took me 3 days to get the schedule right. But by the end of the first week, I noticed that I was able to do way more before noon than I could ever do during the whole day. 1 more week made the impossible possible. I started waking up early in the morning, completely well-rested and excited to start a new day. Not too bad of a start, right? The next step in my plan was to start exercising every day for at least 30 minutes. Everybody swears by it, including self-made successes. But again, just one pitfall. I don't exercise much. You know, like a lot of people, I would join a gym but then start slacking off and only go like once a month. Well, it was time for a change, so I decided to join a gym once more, but this time I was going to work out 4 times a week and stick to it. The hardest part here wasn't even going to the gym itself, it was exercising after working all day. I just wanted to sit back, relax, watch TV, and take a nap after a long day at the office. But if it's marked on the calendar, you have to go to the gym no matter what, was the rule I made for myself. After just 10 days, it already became a habit. My laziness in the evenings had vanished, and my body was ready for physical activity. Because the toxins would leave my body faster, I started sleeping better and waking up easier. Besides, exercising was a good way for me to relax. I became more concentrated and calmer. Incredible.
Where in the world is it easiest to get rich? That's the question I asked my professor when I studied sociology in the early 90s. Because he was having a lecture about social democracy, Scandinavian welfare state, and he was a classical left-wing sociology professor, and he could not hide his enthusiasm when he talked about these egalitarian societies with no rich people and no poor people. But I, on the other hand, I was writing my master thesis about rich people. So when I interviewed my informants from the upper classes, they all said the same thing. Life in Scandinavia is tough. We have to work twice as hard to earn money because we have to struggle against high taxes, strong unions controlling the wages, and a generous welfare state that makes people lazy. As one rich guy told me, he said, they call it a social security net. Well, call it a hammer. And as every aspiring social scientist, I had starting to go native. I started to feel sympathy for these rich people. And that's why I raised my hand and asked my professor, well, what if you don't care so much about equality? What if your dream is to become rich? Where in the world should I have been born to become really rich? I still remember the puzzled look on my professor's face. But he answered the best he could. Something like, well, if that's your goal in life, you should probably have been born in a society with free markets, low taxes, and minimal government intervention. And he added, if you want to become rich, you should probably not study sociology. And that was a good answer, and the best guess we had back then. That is until I saw that the University of Oslo, Professor Kalle Moene, actually had checked the facts. Where in the world it's easiest to get rich? And before I share with you where you should go to earn money, we have to define rich. The UN talks about the poverty line. You know, $1 a day, maybe $2 a day. We have to define the richness line. It's more fun. And the most reliable report when it comes to rich people, the wealth report, they set the richness line at individuals in net worth more than 30 million US dollars. And in the consultant jargon, these people are called HNWIs. That is ultra high net worth individuals. That guy, by the way, he's not rich, it's just a model. Actually on the lower part of the model. And I saved some money by keeping the watermark there as well. Smart. So, according to the wealth report, there are more than 170,000 UHNWIs in the world. And here's the top 5 list of countries with the most rich people. Number 5, China, with more than 8,000, UK, Germany, Japan, and on top, of course, United States with more than 40,000 rich people. But of course, we're not interested in the absolute numbers here. We are interested in rich people per capita, per million inhabitants. And if we leave out the pure tax havens, like Cyprus and Switzerland, Hong Kong, Singapore, Monaco, who have an artificially huge share of rich people, it turns out that we have on number 5 Denmark with 179 rich people per million inhabitants, Canada, New Zealand, and on top Norway. But where's the US? So what happened to my old professor's, social democracies? There are no rich people there. But okay, $30 million, that's just pocket money in a country like the US, where people can get insanely rich. You got the watermark again? So let's rise the richness line up from $30 million up to $1 billion. And the most reliable source here is the Forbes billionaires list. And according to the Forbes, if we look at billionaires per million inhabitants, 1.2 million billionaires, 1.2 billionaires per million inhabitants. United States 1.7, Norway 2, Sweden, and on top Iceland with 3.1. With a single billionaire, Thor Bjørgolfsson. So, but the point is, United States 1.7, Scandinavia taken as a whole 2.1, And the big mystery is, how can this be? How can Bernie Sanders' dream societies, these socialist paradises, be such a breeding place for rich people? That's a mystery. And there are two reasons. Reason number one is free education. Social democracies give free higher education to everybody, and cheap student loans and grants, and that enables more people to use their talents and earn money. We can see this in the social mobility numbers. Imagine all fathers in a society, and we divide them into 5 groups based on income, from the bottom fifth up to the top fifth. And then we look at their sons, and then divide their income into 5 steps. And we see how many sons of the fathers from the bottom income end up on top. How many sons goes from rags to riches. If it was perfect social mobility, if talents and opportunities were equally distributed, 20% from the bottom would end up on each of these 5 ladders. So let's look at the numbers for the different countries. In Denmark, they're pretty close to perfect social mobility, with 14% goes from rags to riches. In Norway, it's 12, Sweden, 11, United States, 8. Because of free education, there are more self-made men in Scandinavia than in the US. And if you look at those sons who don't end up on top, but stay on the bottom, who goes from rags to rags. Again, 20% would be perfect mobility. In Denmark, 25% ends up on the bottom. Sweden, a bit more. Norway, the United States. This is because education in the United States is very expensive. But the second and most important explanation for Scandinavia being such a breeding place for rich people is this. Have you ever noticed, if you've been to the United States, when you drive around and you drive through a toll plaza, there's actually people sitting there taking your money. Compare that to my local toll plaza. There's a sign with some gizmo attached to it. And when you go to a supermarket in the United States, there are actually people there helping to pack it into your bag. It's very friendly and convenient compared to my local grocery store. It's like this. There's nobody there. The biggest shock I had when I went to the US for the first time, when I went to the restroom, there are actually people working there. Compare that to my local public toilet. There's not even a cleaner there. It cleans itself automatically. And the reason for this difference is that Scandinavian unions are pressing up the minimum wages. So it's so expensive to have these people working there. In Norway, a toll booth operator, supermarket packer, and a restroom janitor would earn almost 3 as much as in the US. And that's why we have replaced these people with machines. And that is why I was surprised when I saw this article in the New York Times in 2014, preparing for chip and PIN cards in the United States. Because in the United States, people are still using paper checks as a method of payment, while Scandinavian banks have made us start using chip and PIN cards long ago. Because the minimum wages here are so high, so Scandinavian banks can't afford having people manually controlling the checks. So Scandinavian companies, because of the unions pressing up the wages, they have to downsize and introduce new technology, or else they will go broke. And new technology increases the productivity in a society, which in the long run also increases profit. And on the upper end of the wage ladder, in the name of solidarity, Scandinavian unions hold back the highest salaries of the skilled workers. So, for example, a Norwegian senior engineer, he's my uncle, by the way. That's why there's no watermark there. Actually, he would look cooler with a watermark, but he earns on average per year $76,000, while his American colleague earns more than $100,000. So, American engineers, they are not only more good looking, but they are more expensive. So, of course, this wage restraint on high-skilled work is good for profit. So, the unions are in effect subsidizing the capitalists. I wish I knew all this when I gave up my career in political science, because the beauty and the irony of this finding, I think it's amazing. On the one hand, you have my rich informants that complained about how hard it is to get rich in Scandinavia, and they had it all wrong. Not only is it easier to get rich in a social democracy, but they are critical to the very institutions that have helped them getting rich. High taxes, which gives free education and more talent into the economy. Strong unions that are helping increasing the productivity. And a generous welfare state that make the unions accept downsizing because they know that their members will be well taken care of. So the unions cooperate because of the safety net. So rich people are a bit like Immanuel Kant's famous bird, who thinks she could fly even faster in airless space, forgetting that it's the air itself that gives her lift. And on the other part of the political spectrum, when Bernie Sanders is praising Scandinavian societies, he forgets that these are not anti-rich or anti-capitalist systems, because the welfare state and unions work in tandem with capitalist dynamics. And I think that is the most important lesson here. The economy is not a zero-sum game. We're in this together. And that is why Scandinavia is a better place to fulfill the American dream than America itself. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, I'm Tom from Croatia, and in the last years the world has been my home. I travel, I hitchhike, cars, trucks, horses, motorcycles, boats. I drove in buses, trains, rickshaws. I worked odd jobs, spent time with locals. I volunteered, I became a monk. I sailed across the Indian Ocean. I've tried things that I never tried before. I've seen things that I will remember as long as and all that with almost no money.
That's pretty much it, actually. Thank you very much. No, most of the people, when they see this video, they react with, wow, I wish I could travel like that. And the thing is, before I started traveling, as Andrew said, I was a stockbroker, working 9 to 5, had a lot of money. And then crash came 2008, I lost the money, and I lost the media. At that time, I decided to start a website called couchsurfing. I don't know how many of you guys heard about couchsurfing. How many of you haven't heard about couchsurfing? Okay, for you guys, internet website that allows you to host your home, and at the same time it allows you to host while you're traveling. And I was hosting people, over 150 of them. By listening to their stories and seeing the spark in their eyes, my thought was, wow, I wish I could travel like that. I was afraid. The world is a very dangerous place, at least according to the media, our education, and so on. I was afraid of leaving my comfort zone and going by myself into the unknown world. I was also afraid of not having any money. And then the people that I hosted in my apartment told me two amazing things. First of all, you don't have to be brave to travel. You just have to have a little bit of courage to start, to leave. And the other thing they told me is that you don't have to be rich. Actually, all expenses while you're traveling fall into two major categories. First, the other thing is accommodation. And the last thing, they told me if you minimize minimum, it can be actually cheaper to travel than most. I listened to them, and in the next 5 years I've been traveling around the world. This is how I do it. First thing, apart from being really fast, it allowed me one amazing thing, to have an adventure between point A and point B. How many of you guys have ever hitchhiked? Okay, well, quite a lot. Well, why? What are you doing? Okay, I'm gonna play you a short video called Hitchhiking Guide, just to tell you a few unwritten rules about hitchhiking and some of my experiences.
And try to wear some like clean clothes, whatever, or hide behind your backpack so nobody sees what you look like.
Lesson number 54, do not hitchhike during night. Be in a good mood. Yeah, it's your choice. You're hitchhiking, so it's me, so don't be grumpy. Don't be like...
Lesson number 58, eye contact with the drivers. See, this one nearly stopped. So yeah, don't hitchhike alone. I have a friend that I hitchhike with. Meet Maria Juana. This is she. Lesson number 21, talk with the drivers when you're in the car, because that's the only way you can repay them. They would like to hear some interesting stories if you have one, yeah? It's not just listening to their stories. Lesson number 9, fasten your seatbelt if you have one.
Hitchhiking lesson number 62, when the driver is asleep, take over. Be always happy, you know, like, you're hitchhiking, it's your choice. Be patient. Don't expect people to stop, because you'll be wrong in 99.74% of cases. But no matter how long you wait, the right ride will come. So that's the ultimate hitchhiking rule, and that's all you have to know, man. There are no rules, actually. Follow the rules. So yeah, go out there, enjoy your life, and challenge yourself, right?
Feels alright. Even breathing feels alright. Yes, even breathing.
another alternative to transportation. You guys know what that is? How many of you guys? So you just take your backpack and hit the road. Another way is cycling. It's not maybe completely free because you have to conventional method of transportation. And the last one is actually working in exchange for transportation. I did.